Andy, my dude, have you heard of the magical website builder known as Squarespace?
Ugh, not another Squarespace ad. I feel like every podcast is sponsored by them.
Hey, don't knock it till you try it. Yes, okay, it is overhyped, but actually it lives up to the hype. Squarespace is like a website fairy godmother. With a click of a button, your site transforms into a beautiful masterpiece.
A website fairy godmother? That sounds interesting. What makes it so magical?
Well, for starters, those slick templates make anyone look like a professional web designer. Pick one, customize the colors and fonts to match your brand, and voila. Plus, the drag-and-drop fluid engine is so easy, your grandma could build a site on Squarespace.
Well, she did knit me a lovely scarf last Christmas. Maybe website design is next.
Exactly. And when you're ready to sell your Nana's handmade scarves online, Squarespace has built-in e-commerce. Add a store with one click. Get flexible payment options. Then watch those sales roll in. And when she wants to teach others her steezy scarf skills, Squarespace's new courses feature is just the ticket. Nana can set up her curriculum and enrollments and payments in a snap and become the next e-knitting influencer.
Oh, wow, you really sold me with the grandma angle. Sign me up for that free trial.
Just go to thenextreel.com/Squarespace and transform your site into a beautiful Squarespace masterpiece.
Well, thanks, Pete. Even though it's overhyped, Squarespace actually sounds perfect for Nana's site's needs. Appreciate the warning on the ads, though. I'll brace myself next time I listen to a podcast.
Anytime. Let me know if you need any help getting that site up and running. Andy, can you believe we've almost hit 700 episodes of The Next Reel?
I know, it's crazy. And with all the other episodes in our family of podcasts, we are well over 1,200 episodes of movie conversation. It's really pretty amazing that we've gotten to have these in-depth movie chats every week for over a decade now.
And we couldn't have done it without our loyal community of film fans. Their support over the years has meant so much.
For sure. That reminds me, we should give the merch store a shout out. Buying shirts from thenextreel.com/merch is a great way listeners can continue to support the show. Plus, they get to sport our great designs.
Absolutely. I think sometimes folks forget we have a variety of shirts, mugs, phone cases, and more available. In fact, a great place to start is with a shirt sporting the Next Reel's logo.
We also have that classic Fast Times Spicoli Surf School tee, or the weirdly popular Rusty's European Tour shirt.
The one from National Lampoon's European Vacation. Why is that so popular?
Search me, but we have sold a ridiculous number of those. I guess there are a lot of Rustys taking trips to Europe?
We're always adding new designs based on movies we've covered, like our brand new design for a streetcar named Desire, featuring a streetcar named Desire. So if you want to rep your love of TNR and films, head to thenextreel.com/merch.
Every purchase helps us continue to have these weekly in-depth conversations. So visit thenextreel.com/merch today.
And as always, thanks for listening and being a part of the Next Reel community. We've got lots more great movie chats coming your way. I'm Pete Wright.
And I'm Andy Nelson.
Welcome to The Next Reel. When the movie ends,
our conversation begins.
The Diary of a Teenage Girl is over. You're so full of yourself.
I got a girl, she's sweet as can be. All the other boys want to be like me. And oh, isn't life sweet?
I refuse to be some sniveling crybaby. This is my life.
Honey, isn't life sweet?
I don't want to brag, but it was quite a piece when I was your age.
Run to the mountains, we can sail the Emerald Sea. Drop a coin.
I know nothing's changed, but everything looks totally different to me now.
True when I wake up and I see you next to me. It comes true when I wake up and I see you next to me.
This is for all the girls when they have grown.
Andy, Diary of a Teenage Girl.
Is this a diary we should have been reading? Did you feel guilty?
I felt dirty and guilty the whole time. The whole time. But Bel Powley so sells it. I adore her. I think she's a wonderful human being and a great actor.
And she does a good job of playing a teenager when she wasn't.
Yes.
She looked like
sure
a teenager.
Does.
Yes.
She did. She acted like one. Her voice, the characteristics of her voice were just amazing. Now, so all that celebration is what it is. I then went to look at Skarsgård, who's in this movie. And if you haven't gone to Skarsgård, his IMDb page, you really should. I don't know what's going on, but he's in tux with no pants on some sort of a red carpet.
It's like that nightmare scenario, right?
Yeah, it is. It's a nightmare scenario.
I had a nightmare. I looked down and I was, in this award ceremony, and I forgot my pants.
Do you think at any point Stellan is somewhere saying, yeah, that's so Alexander? like they just have they know the black sheep. If Alexander has to look around and find the black sheep and he can't figure out which one of the Skarsgårds it is, it's him. Do you think they have that?
Do you think so? Well, let's see. Name all the Skarsgårds. There's Stellan's the dad.
Yeah, Stellan, Bill, Alexander. There are more Skarsgårds. I know there are. Why can't I think of any more? Hold on.
There's Bill, Gustav, Sam, Aija, Walter, Ossian, and Kolbjorn. Those are the actual.
That's Kolbjorn. That's the one I couldn't remember.
Kolbjorn and Ossian are half siblings.
Half Skarsgård. They're just guards.
Strangely, when you look at Alexander's IMDb page, he's listed with having 3 parents. I'm assuming it's a step parent, but it is odd to say 3 parents.
What is going on in the Skarsgård family?
Stellan is his father. Mai or Megan are one of them's the mother and one's the stepmom, I guess.
Kolbjorn was in Clark. Ossian was in The Wife. Daniel's a writer for WCW Nitro. Eldja? Oh my goodness. What about Lloyd? Did you get Lloyd Skarsgård? Is that a different? I think that's a different Skarsgård.
Yeah, I just went with the ones.
He doesn't have the accent over the A.
That's a different guard.
It's a different guard.
So that's the Skarsgårds. Quite the acting family. I mean, even his dad obviously is an actor, and the 2 mothers are all actors as well. Like, they're all performers. I mean, a lot of them haven't necessarily crossed the pond quite as much, but yeah. And here's Alexander, sexiest man in Sweden, voted in 1999.
Well, did you see him in Tarzan? Come on.
He's been the sexiest man in Sweden 5 times, Pete.
Is that why he chooses to go to red carpet events without wearing pants? Is he just leaning in on that?
Maybe, yeah. Maybe.
And he's wearing the little, what are they called? The sock suspenders? Like, he's wearing sock suspenders with no pants. What is going on, Alexander? You're very handsome, but, make good choices.
Very, very funny. And he went to the premiere of this film in drag, actually. So he
is provocative.
Yeah, very provocative.
He is provocative.
So that's Alexander, and that's Bel. I guess we'd call them our 2 leads, although Bel pretty much is the lead. I guess he's the lead, a male character in the film.
It's uncomfortable.
Really
it's uncomfortable giving him that credit. You're leading. You're leading nothing, Monroe.
It is a really interesting film. And, in our coming of age debuts series, of which this is the penultimate in the series, Marielle Heller, right out of the gate with this film, showed quite a lot of promise with what she could do. And this is after she had already turned this book that Phoebe Gloeckner had written into a play and done it as a stage show first. Then she said, I'm going to make a movie out of it. And here it is. So it's an impressive way to kick things off.
Well, it's a lovely little film. I'm excited that we are talking about it.
This film is rated R. Shouldn't come as a surprise once you watch it. But yeah, strong sexual content, including dialogue, graphic nudity, drug use, language, and drinking, all involving teens. Want to watch this movie and help us out? Well, you can. If you see an Apple or an Amazon link to the movie in the show notes, just click on it. It will take you right to their site, and you can rent or you can buy the movie. And when you do this, they throw a little money at us. It's always nice. We're like the fountain, and Amazon and Apple are like the kids throwing pennies at us. It's fantastic.
That's exactly what they are. Watch your head, Andy. Watch your head. If you want to make sure we get a little bit more than pennies, maybe even a nickel, head over to truestory.fm/TNR merch, and you can see our lineup of merch. You can get some True Story logo stuff on shirts, stickers, mugs, mask, pillows, and more. And sometimes we even put up a little logo stuff about the movies that we're talking about that are fun to do. So you should check that out. And, maybe before it's gone, hit the Rusty International Tour t-shirt or pillow, because it just keeps getting sold. Don't know why. I don't have one.
I think there are a lot of families with a family member named Rusty, and they're going to Europe, and they say, "Oh, wouldn't this be fun?" That's the only thing I can think of. Why is that shirt, more than anything that we have put up, just keeps selling? Rusty the European Tour from National Lampoon's European Vacation. That is.
Do you know what? We'll take it. I mean, we'll take it.
Sure.
There's no gift horse kind of thing going on here, but it is an oddity. Anyway, merch. TrueStory.fm/TNR merch.
We would love to feature audio reviews from you, our dear listeners. Just send us an audio file to reviews@truestory.fm once you watch the movie, and we just might end up showcasing your voice on the show. We do record about 2 weeks in advance, so get it sent in to us in time so that it can be included. We would love to have it. Again, reviews@truestory.fm.
And if you're wondering where you can see what movies we're going to be talking about in the upcoming weeks, head over to Letterboxd. We have an HQ page over on Letterboxd. That's at letterboxd.com/thenextreel. And it is our favorite social network. And it is the best social network for movie lovers. And if you're there and you fall in love with the place like we have, you can sign up for a pro or patron membership, remove ads, support the team, and get 20% off by just using the code NEXTREEL. We've actually built a little redirect link. If you go to thenextreel.com/letterboxd, you'll go straight to the checkout page with that 20% already applied. And it works for renewals as well.
You know how I know that? I just renewed my membership with our discount.
Did you? Oh, Andy.
How fantastic is that?
That's the best.
Yes. And Letterboxd has their fantastic membership. We have one as well. We would love to have you as a member supporting our show. You can support either month to month or at an annual rate, and you get all sorts of things, like all these bonus episodes that we do. We have a monthly member bonus episode filling in a gap from a series that we've done sometime in the past. And members get to vote on what we're doing. The April poll, we're doing it original sci-fi. The movie's yet to be determined, but we know we're locking that in as our series. We also do a Flick Chart re-ranking episode every month where we jump back into our Flick Chart and do some re-ranking and shake things up over there. We also, at the end of every series now, we have a retake episode where we look at the entire series and, just kind of macroscopically, as I love to say, talk about what we got out of the series as a whole. If you would like to learn more about becoming a member, just go to truestory.fm/TNR membership. You can learn more about the tiers. The most it'll cost you is $5 per month or $55 per year.
Diary of a Teenage Girl. First of all, for a movie that so thoroughly telegraphs its central complication, please, teenage girls of the future, do not put your diary on cassette tapes and put them under your bed. They're too hard to hide, too easy to embarrass you. Please don't do that for the future. It's not a good strategy for your diary.
It's an interesting I mean, it makes sense for the purposes of a play and a movie to have your protagonist recording her diary so we can hear it, right? It makes sense.
Yeah.
In context of a young girl who wants to be an artist, I found it a little, odd that audio recording was the way that she wanted to approach her diary, when it seems like she clearly loves having pen in hand, and loves doodling and drawing and stuff like that. And so it's an interesting blend.
I thought it was exactly the same thing, especially because the movie had already invested so heavily in art. And that's one of the things I love so much about it, is just the visual treatment of the animation. She is a young aspiring animator. She has all these wonderful connections to obviously the Gloeckner original graphic novel, and to Aileen Kaminsky Crumb, who, I mean, it's just like she's aspiring to that sort of artistry, and the movie uses it so well. It seems really strange that I'm right with you. Using it on stage made a lot of sense, that they didn't come back and rethink how to do that treatment more visually. I think that, that would have made more sense. Although using the tape gets around the thing that frustrates me the most, which is voiceovers, because as soon as she puts the mic to her mouth, it's no longer a voiceover in my head. And so it's okay to hear her voice, because I immediately picture her sitting on her bed and talking in the mic.
Well, but even if she was, like, I guess I don't have an issue at all with voiceover when we're just listening to somebody's internal dialogue as a diarist. As a diarist, exactly. As they're writing it and we're just, hearing it. That doesn't bug me at all. And so I think it would have been fine either way. It does strike me as, I guess, if anything, it's just a more interesting way to do it, having her record the audio as opposed to just writing the diaries. It's a more interesting visual way to approach. It doesn't bug me really at all. It's just it's a point that I did notice, but it's not something that I find pulls me out of the film or anything.
I think so too. So she's fantastic. Bel Powley as our young protagonist. Love the art. Love what she's doing there. How does this play for you as a coming of age film, given this is our coming of age series?
I'm very much going to look forward to our conversations in our retake episode. Again, our members only retake episode at the end of the series, when we kind of talk about what makes a coming of age film, as opposed to just a film dealing with young people that is just a story,
Mm-hmm.
I think that there's an element to this about this young girl who is figuring herself out as far as her sexual awakening. And she's 15 and trying to sort that out. We start post having had sex. She just has had sex, is thrilled by it. And that's what inspires her to kind of start this diary, this audio diary. And we kind of learn how it all started and then follow it along. And it's really a kind of a twisted story that, it takes place in the 70s in San Francisco. And she ends up hooking up with her mom's boyfriend, who is kind of a free spirit, kind of a post-hippie, free-spirited sort of guy in San Francisco. And and her mom, they're very, I guess I would say, kind of, it's a bohemian family, that's kind of the sense we get, other than her dad, who seems all business, who clearly didn't find that he fit with mom at all. But mom seems very kind of bohemian, hippie, drugs, all that sort of stuff. And this element of her falling for her mom's boyfriend and him falling for her becomes a kind of a fairly twisted story that we go on. And I think it's important to kind of, obviously we're dealing with kind of some, a man who is older with a minor. But at the same time, there is this element about her being proactive with her kind of her sexual identity and driving this thing forward. It's not even just with him. It's also with, boys her own age, but she's really she's enjoying herself and she's figuring out what that means. I think there's an interesting element to her explorations that becomes, strong and powerful as we're kind of trying, as we're looking at coming of age.
The coming of age part I love about this movie, right? Because I feel like this movie, maybe more than many of the others that we've talked about in the series, has a truly explicit moment for me where she has come of age. And it's not just her having sex with an older man, having a lot of sex. It's at the end of the movie, jumping to the end when she's on the beach selling her artwork for 5 or 50 cents or whatever. And Monroe comes up and they have this little conversation. And at the end, her voiceover, she says, I'm better than you, you son of a bitch, in her head, right? That's what we get. She's talking about him. And we realize, oh, right. Now she's grown up. She went through all of the experience, right? All of the lust and the fear and the uncertainty and the self-loathing, thinking she's fat, thinking she's like bad for doing the things that she's doing. She goes through, the shame and people calling her a slut at school. And she goes through all of that and realizes at the end of the movie, to my ear, what it means to grow up, to have lived through an experience, a complicated experience, an experience that wasn't just hard and sad, but one that was full of emotional complication, and come out the other side recognizing that, she's a better person, right? And to me, that's a powerful message of this movie, and it makes me just really love the character and love what she goes through, even as it's a troublesome story about her and an older man. I would also say, you guys don't have to do this. I went ahead and took the bullet for doing Google searches on the average age of young women losing their virginity, and it's a high percentage. I don't have a number. I wish I had a number, but it's a high percentage of young women who actually lose their virginity to older men, sometimes significantly older men. And it is not. It is like it's a whole range of difficult situations. Many consensual, many that are consensual, and also, like this movie, sort of loathsome. But it is complicated. Sex is complicated. And I think this movie actually does an able job of presenting the complication that is inherent in the process.
It's a very tricky thing because obviously there is like a legal age that we've established in our country. 18 years, you're an adult, right? Sexual identity and sexual thoughts start at much younger ages in both, men, boys and girls, men and women. And it becomes a thing where, a lot of kids are trying to figure out, how can we do this? I can't wait. It's going to be so awesome. And whether it's with a person who's, over 18 or under 18, it is in a lot of people's heads. So it's not like this is a story that is just kind of all about sexual perversity or anything like that.
Right.
It's a story about reality is the way that I felt about it. And yeah, there are these draws that people have. And in this particular case, that moment that she and Monroe have early in the film where, accidental or not, they're kind of sitting next to each other and he puts his arm around her and his hand accidentally ends up on her boob, or maybe intentionally ends up on her boob, and you're not exactly sure. And they're trying to figure out, or she, it turns into something, and the attraction just overtakes her. And he has those moments of doubt, like, I shouldn't do this. But he's so drawn into it that he just can't stop. And that's to your point about her coming of age and the actual growth that she has as a character. By the time we get through all the drama that she's had with him, with her mom finding out, and the conversations they've had, and kind of how they've had to deal with it, to that final moment where she is selling her art on the beach and he shows up and she says that line, like, that is a great moment of her finally learning to navigate these big emotions that people have of that draw that you have to people, and the sex and the love and the, she, in the beginning, it's just like, I love him so much. I can't, is it going to be awkward if we're together, and all this sort of stuff that she's thinking without realizing, like, there's more to it than that. And that's what's great about the way that the story presents her as a very real character who does come into her own and start figuring these things out. And it takes people, sometimes a long time to figure that sort of stuff out. And so this was a really interesting and unique journey that we have with her in this film.
I like that you say this isn't a movie that's just, really centers on the sexual perversity of it all, because believe me, there are all kinds of other things going on in this movie that are difficult to swallow, like the entire culture of drug use and parenting, and at some point they are so exuberant in their explorations of sex that they in fact sell themselves. They prostitute themselves in a bar bathroom, which is deeply disconcerting. Is it redemptive then that we have a scene immediately following that where they make each other a promise never to do that again, that they really thought that was where they discovered where the line was? At the level of risk they go to. So I think there is a lot going on here that makes this a more complicated thing, not the least of which is that these girls were coming through their formative years in the 70s. Like, this is also very much a 70s story. And I finished the movie, and the first thing I wrote in my notes is that I'm deeply relieved I dodged anything close to formative years for myself being aligned with the 70s. What a crazy place to be a teenager, right? We just got incredibly lucky being, coming up to the, like, ours was Duran Duran. That was the worst that we could do, and some skateboarding, right? Like, this was,
I don't know, George Michael, I Want Your Sex. That was, there was a line with the parents of that one.
You're right. That was rough. And then Footloose, remember, there's a whole town that didn't want dancing involved. So
that's right.
Real risk. So anyway.
Dancing leads to sex.
I felt like just navigating some of the things that they had to navigate because there were so few guardrails, and because look at her mother, like she was in as explorational a mode as her daughter was, right? And she was doing it as a result of loss and trauma and grief, and dealing with the dissolution of her relationship, her marriage with her dad, and getting fired from the library. Like, there are all these little environmental sort of character bits that are peppered throughout this, where we get to see Kristen Wiig really perform. And I think that is another, fascinating angle in the whole mix of this movie that makes, the story sort of propels the story. What'd you think of Mom?
Yeah, I mean, really powerful performance from Wiig here that I found to be very, very, I mean, she's that free spirit character that you have here. As you said, she's trying to figure her own life out, and she's having fun, and she's doing drugs, and she's doing all sorts of stuff that, there's a little lacking in responsibility, but at the same time, it's of the era. And I think there is an interesting element to the way that she does have this very free bohemian life. And I think it's very interesting when you have Minnie and her little sister, Gretel, and interacting with Mom, and the kind of the contrast when Dad's around and they're hanging out at the cafe with Dad, and he's kind of given him those life lessons, which, the one you said, I'm better than you, you son of a bitch. What a great callback that we have later in the film, but that's kind of the lesson that he's teaching his girls. And he's much more rigid businessman back in New York who's living a much stronger life, and seems like he was drawn to Charlotte because of that wildness of her, but then realized after they had kids, like, I can't live this way. And and there's that big loss of the marriage that they have and the hurt and everything. But the way that Wiig portrays that, especially as we get to the end, and I found it really powerful how she found her own way to kind of cope with what had happened between Minnie and Monroe, accepting Minnie, welcoming her back in after Minnie runs away from home and almost goes down a terrible, terrible path, but welcomes Minnie back in, but still makes sure she lets her know, I can't talk to you about Monroe. We have to have a wall there. I just can't go there. And that was, it's really, I mean, it was powerful and very well done and very real. That's the thing about it. It just all felt very human.
Well, and that scene in particular, I think, highlights a theme that I really love in this movie, which is what awareness comes from loss, right? In that case, Mom wakes up to the fact that this whole thing is terrible. And yeah, I threw a fit and I went and I told Monroe that you you porked my daughter, so now you have to marry her. Why do you keep using pork? Oh my goodness, that was a terrible riotous scene, and yet, on fearing that she has lost Minnie, she discovers what she has in her relationship with her daughter, and I think that scene is a real high point in the film as a way of that sort of retribution of their relationship, that sort of redemption of their relationship. I thought that was really strong. The other thing that I love on that same theme is that the movie is not presenting that Monroe I don't want to say he's a sexual predator, but I can understand how, one could sort of make the case that he's the villain. I don't think he's the villain, and I don't think he's ever necessarily portrayed as the villain of the film.
No.
I think he's left as an incredibly complex guy with a complex set of sort of moral guardrails himself. And also, they had a relationship that was full of a deep attraction for one another.
That was what was so interesting about the relationship. Like, they both knew they were crossing lines, but there was a draw that they couldn't stop. And he kept saying, we got to stop this. We got to stop this. And then she would like lean on him or something. And it's that kind of that sensual sexual draw that they had with each other that they said, okay, just this last time, it's like that whole thing. And I found that to be interesting, where neither of them could really contain themselves when they were around the other because they were so passionately connected. And, I think that makes for a really interesting and complex character. And I can see why Skarsgård would want to play the character, because it does allow for a more complex, less just straight archetypal type of character. Like, this is somebody who has complexity and as an actor trying to figure out what does that mean, and how do I engage in these things that I should know are not right, but I can't stop myself. And I found that to be interesting, especially as we get to the end of the film, as we've already talked about. And he stops by, and she has that monologue with herself. I'm better than you son of a bitch. She's kind of grown past it. Has he? Who knows? Maybe he still has that draw, but he's not in her life anymore. But has he grown up, or is he just another Trip Fontaine like we had in the Virgin Suicides, who perpetually will now be stuck in kind of that mentality? Interesting
perspective shift from the original material, from the Gloeckner book. And I wonder what your take is on this. In the book, or I should say in the movie, she runs away with this other girl, Tabitha, and they explore one another. They do drugs. Tabitha takes her to this third party. Never go with a hippie to a second location. And they go into this house, and you can tell something is going on. Tabitha is talking to this guy who is not obviously being portrayed as not a good guy, and Minnie sort of comes to her senses and runs away. Okay?
Yep.
Well, in the original material, one of Minnie's friends confides in Minnie that she, the friend, actually slept with Pascal, Minnie's dad. Right? So now Minnie is sleeping with Monroe. One of her friends is sleeping with her dad. And that is the shock that awakes her, and she chooses to move or to leave for a while. She runs away with Tabitha. Tabitha gets her high and allows Minnie to be raped by this guy in exchange for more pills. Right? So this is much more of a drug-addled sense of loss during this period while she's away from home. When she comes home, and that's when she has the confrontation with her mom eventually, and says, you can't bring Monroe home. I don't want to talk about Monroe. But mom continues to see Monroe, just not in their home anymore. What do you think about that? The whole idea of taking Minnie to such a dark place, where she's allowed to be raped and prostituted in exchange for drugs in a very, very seedy way.
It's definitely a darker path for Minnie. And that really feels like taking it kind of almost to the extreme. And I wonder if it's something that they changed because, I don't know, because of time, because of, was it too dark to kind of go all the way down that road? I don't know. I felt like, honestly, the way that it wraps up, where she's in that place and she just kind of realizes, this isn't good. What am I doing here? I need to get out of this because this is going down a dark and dangerous road. Like, I thought that worked so well in the film. I don't know if I needed to see her go any farther down that path.
Here's the thing that I think confuses me about it, to your point. Like, this, what is this? Would it have been a coming of age story had it gone down that point, or would it have been a drug story? Like, would we have just been making a female-centered Requiem for a Dream?
Yeah, that's an interesting way to look at it. Would it have just taken it down a way? I mean, yeah, because what we're getting here really is that coming of age through kind of, there is that element of it, kind of that the joy of sex and exploration takes her to this place where she's hanging out with Tabitha and kind of connects in with this lesbian, and they form a relationship and they're doing all these drugs, but she does realize she needs to get out of it because it can go down a dark road. I think that you may be onto something, that going down that darker road might take some of the coming of age element out of the story and turn it into more of a, can this girl get off this path, this deadly potential path of drugs and addiction?
Yeah, I think so. And we already have the rather sort of florid, like, transcendent sequence of doing LSD. When she sprouts wings and starts to hover over the bed, and there was no refrigerator talking because it didn't necessarily go that far. We do get the sense that he had a bad trip.
He's the one with the talking refrigerator, if anyone.
Yeah, he had the talking. It's all about perspective, and so, but I think the movie just danced right against that fine line, which is, look, this is about her awakening to adulthood and what that means for her, and all of the drugs, for me, were much more a part of the fabric of the culture in the 70s and not a central protagonist of the story. And I think that was walking away from the film this watch, it was, it's not centrally a drug story. It's a 70s sexual awakening story. And I think it's better for it. But having never, seen the play, I don't know what the adaptation would have did there. I think it's interesting just how dark the original story gets. And I'm glad they made these changes.
Me too. Yeah, me too. We haven't really talked about kind of her relationship, and we've talked a lot about her family and everything, but there's also this interesting relationship, I think, that she has with her best friend, Kimmy, and kind of that relationship and how it, I don't know, how it shifts and shapes and everything as the film goes, because there's an element to the two of them that seem like, and I think this is definitely something in that age where there's that, I don't want to call it like a one-upsmanship, but an element of, she's already doing these things, I want to try it too, and very much kind of that peer, it's not even peer pressure, but it's just like, hey, you're doing it too, I want to try it too, and they're talking about these things, and Kimmy's talking about how she's done these things, and now that makes Minnie want to do these things, but then you're finding out, did Kimmy really do these things? Who knows? But it's interesting how it kind of progresses and how their friendship shifts and changes, and especially, and this speaks, I guess, partially, and I wonder how the book had this, but where there is that party where Minnie and Kimmy and Monroe do end up having that threesome, and Minnie and Kimmy, kind of are able to kind of reconcile a little bit, but it certainly puts a strain on their relationship. But I like the way that particular friendship was portrayed in the film. Did you get much a sense of her relationship with Kimmy?
Well, and now I've got a little bit all munged in my head. Did we ever get a sense that Kimmy slept with Pascal in the movie?
I don't remember that.
I don't think we did. I think it was totally excised from the story. But I think it was Kimmy that was the friend that Pascal sleeps with, and that is the thing that unravels their relationship. But again, I don't know. I'm speaking completely out of school because I haven't seen or read the original material myself. I'm just reading a synopsis. So
yeah, I'm mostly remembering the relationship that the threesome that they had, where there was that scene where we have the three of them.
Well, I think it's so like I have this memory. This is the thing that it ties back to, and I'll say another data point that the data point that sort of presages the threesome is when they're sitting in a room and they start simulating oral sex together on the David Bowie poster. And
not
that
David
is
Bowie. It's
not David Bowie. Who was it?
It'll come to me.
Oh, it will. Okay. So anyway, they simulate oral sex on this poster of a rock poster, and that
Convinced
felt very.
They can taste, or they can feel his heart.
They can feel it. Yeah, they can feel it, and it is the most bizarre thing. But as I remember being a stupid teenager too, and saying and doing things that didn't feel like peer pressure at the time. It just felt like we are all collectively doing this thing now, and we are all collectively going to see what happens. And it might, to outside people, it might seem really stupid, but to us right now, it is the journey we have to take together. I never really got any sense that they were, I think you're right to kind of hedge the one-upsmanship discussion, because I didn't get a feeling that it was a state of they were trying to outdo one another. I think they were just going along together, and it's hard to do as young people. It's like hard to navigate. Is that a fair assessment?
Yeah, I think that's exactly it. It's they're both just excited about the things that they're doing, and when one's excited about something, the other wants to kind of go along that same road. And so it's this kind of growing learning experience that they're sharing. Yeah, it's interesting.
Yeah, it really is. So that is, I'll tell you, I really enjoy this movie, and you're right. I guess it's a little, I guess I feel a little, I don't feel dirty watching it, but I didn't have a teenage girl to watch it with. My daughter's gone again. I didn't have to sweat that part. I wonder, you probably watched it with your daughter. What did she have to say?
Jeez. No, thank you. No, I tell you, because Minnie, we talk about Monroe quite a bit, but she does hook up with Ricky, one of her schoolmates, a few times. And what I found so funny about that is she is so bored by Ricky's inept ability to have sex and know how to please her. And so she shows him, and he's just like so intimidated by her and how much she knows. And I found that so incredibly funny. So there's that. You already talked about how they kind of pretend they're prostitutes and perform on two boys in a bathroom. And so there are a lot of different things going on that she's doing. And yeah, it makes for, there are some scenes where I'm like, God, this is like, and I know the actors are all of age, but watching it and like, oh, this is very uncomfortable and awkward watching these supposed teenagers like having sex or doing something, it's like, gosh, geez. And it happens. But yeah, it's such an interesting, powerful, strong film that explores this girl kind of figuring herself out. And yeah, it's challenging, but it's incredibly entertaining. It's, we talked about this a little bit, how some of these coming of age films are much more dramatic and dark, and some of them are much more funny. This one really has a good blend of both. I felt like at first I wrote down, because her first line is just like, I had sex today. And I'm like, this one's in the comedy realm.
Yep.
But yeah, you definitely go down some darker roads in this film. And so it's not Slums of Beverly Hills. It's not The Virgin Suicides. There's a line that this one is going kind of really that felt just like life. It felt very much like life. And I was just very inspired by the way that Heller crafted and told this story. And it was powerful stuff.
Let's talk a little bit about Heller as the director. What did you think of her sense of tone?
It was clear she connected with this story. She played Minnie on the stage show that she put together. and which I guess only ran for a couple months, but it was very popular, very big, and that was what Gloeckner needed to give her the film rights. And then she worked with the Sundance Institute to help craft the story, put it together, and you could tell she found a team of people who were as excited by and interested in telling the story in a creative way as Heller, because she knows the story inside and out. She knew the book. She wrote the play. She performed it as the lead, and she clearly had the voice of Minnie. And I felt like I was in good hands from the start. You know, the way that the animations would pop up throughout the film, the way that she unfolded the story, introduced the characters, like everything felt authentic and real. And I don't know, I'm very pleasantly surprised with this series, watching these coming of age films and what these different filmmakers did with their first film that just is like, God, you just right out of the gate, like you were able to craft a story that had a very clear voice. And it's impressive to see what she put together here.
I think so too. And have you seen the other principal films that she's directed? She's been in a ton of stuff as a performer, but she's only directed so far, some episodes of television and 3 or 4 features.
3 features.
What the Constitution means to me, does that count? I don't know.
No, that's a TV play that she filmed.
Yes, so that one doesn't count. But that one plus A Beautiful Day in the Neighborhood, Can You Ever Forgive Me, and Diary of a Teenage Girl.
Yeah, I've seen them all. I'm a Heller head, I guess. I enjoy her stories. I think she does a good job with them. So
Hellerhead. Hellhound?
Hellerhound? Heller High Water.
You're a real high water.
That's all right. That's right. I mean, Can You Ever Forgive Me? I mean, Melissa McCarthy is very interesting in that film. As is Richard E. Grant, who is, I mean, both of them fantastic in that film. Dark biopic. And A Beautiful Day in the Neighborhood, really creative, biopic that, about a really prominent character in kind of my childhood, Mr. Rogers, but also just the way that she chose to like the thing that still sticks with me is the way that she chose to do the traveling, because it all felt like we were watching Mr. Rogers with like the little toy planes and stuff and everything. It felt very like she crafts stories in interesting ways. So yeah, I'm a fan.
Me too. And she is a 6.8 with Diary of a Teenage Girl, 7.1 and 7.3 on the other 2 films. She is handily above the IMDb 6-star scale, and clearly a deserved filmmaker.
Yeah. But sadly, like we're seeing with a lot of these filmmakers in this series, is perhaps because they're women, perhaps because of the types of stories that they're telling, they're not given opportunities to make a lot of different projects. I mean, she's only had 3 films. I mean, like you said, she's done a good number of TV. I mean, she hasn't directed a lot of TV, just a few episodes of some shows and that play.
Well, she was fantastic in The Queen's Gambit.
And then acting, right? The acting is really where she keeps herself busy. But I'd love to think that she could get more directing jobs.
Me too. I would love to see more directing work from her.
Yeah.
So
this was shot by Brandon Trost, brother of Sarah Trost, who we've had on the show on a speakeasy talking about Terminator 2. This is something that he shot and looked really. I liked the sepia feel to the film. It just felt very period. It felt gritty. I thought they captured a really nice look to the whole thing.
A lot of his films have that sort of vibe to it. Like you look at, I don't know if it's something that came up from his youth, but I look at Sarah and our conversation with Sarah and how she manages costumes.
Right.
And then I look at Brandon and how he manages. They both feel sort of old school, right? They feel like they were born maybe out of time and have a real sense and sensibility for this period, for the 70s, right? And you look at An American Pickle, which was he directed, and then Disaster Artist. He was a cinematographer for Disaster Artist. Can You Forgive Me had its own sort of tonal stuff going on there, and I think all of them have this. They feel like visual throwbacks to me. Like it's interesting to watch. I did not realize that he directed one of our favorites, This Is the End, or didn't direct, a cinematographer behind This Is the End,
right?
Which, has its own stuff going on, but
yeah,
quite a busy guy.
And currently, Sonic the Hedgehog 2 is in theaters.
Yeah,
and he shot that, so he's all over the place. And your favorite, Dear Evan Hansen.
We just watched that. That was a rough one. That was a rough watch. Not kidding. Oof, rough.
So, but this looks great. I really enjoyed the look, especially when it's, a film style that you want to kind of feel like it does integrate well with all the animation that we end up seeing, which, I felt like it all was of the same space, and I really enjoyed that. And, totally that agree. Also speaks to the production design, because obviously the look of the film has to fit as well. So, and that was Jonah Markowitz who did the production design, and Carmen Grande costume design. So all of them together, I felt they achieved a strong film.
It really is. It looks great. If there's anything that gives you trouble about the film, what is it?
That's a good question. I don't know. Nothing really stands out as a problem. I think that it all. I mean, other than it's just the challenging nature of the story. But I think it's there because it's a story that needed to be told this way, and so I don't have any particular issues with it. But it is definitely a challenging one to watch. It's not an easy watch. I think a lot of people will have a harder time with this because of what it is depicting and how. For me, I think that it worked exceptionally, but I can see why some people are going to be put off by it right out of the gate.
Yeah, me too. But that person was not me.
We didn't mention, just as a last note before we kind of move on, I think that another powerful moment in the film was when she does come home after having run off, and she's in this place where she's kind of feeling a little bit of a loss, like, who am I? What is all of this? And she hasn't put the pieces together. She has all the things there. She just doesn't know what to do with it yet. And that's when she sees that she got that letter from the comic book artist. That is that moment that she needed to be able to put the pieces together. And I found that to be so powerful and inspiring because, oftentimes, people write these letters to people that inspire them and stuff, and they might get something back, they might not, but they don't necessarily, it's not that life-changing thing. But it was for her here. And I found that to be so powerful because she gets that letter and she has that immediate connection to this artist. They use the same type of ink and stuff like that. And I found that to be inspiring because that's what she needed to cross that line, put that puzzle together so she knew how to kind of move forward. And it was powerful. I thought that was a great moment that we had in the film here.
Yeah, I do too. I sort of wish I knew what she wrote back.
Yeah, right.
Right. We see her at the end drop a letter in the mailbox. I kind of want to know what she wrote back, but not something we get to be privy to.
We're not privy to that. All right. Well, we will be right back. But first, our credits.
The next reel is a production of True Story FM. Engineering by Andy Nelson. Music by A.M. Beef, Oriel Novella, and Eli Catlin. Andy usually finds all the stats for the awards and numbers at the-numbers.com, boxofficemojo.com, imdb.com, and wikipedia.org. Find the show at truestory.fm, and if your podcast app allows ratings and 5-star reviews, please consider doing that for our show. How did it do at award season, Andy?
It did well for itself. The film ended up having 16 wins with 37 other nominations. Marielle Heller, over at the Directors Guild of America, their awards, she was nominated for Outstanding Directorial Achievement in a First-Time Feature Film. She didn't end up winning. It went to Alex Garland. for Ex Machina, which I can see that.
I get it. Yeah,
I definitely get that. But yeah, I mean, strong between that. Joel Edgerton was nominated for The Gift, which, there's another strong one. Laszlo Nemes for Son of Saul, which, boy, that's a punch in the gut movie. And then I haven't heard of this one, Fernando Coimbra for A Wolf at the Door. That was the other nominee. But yeah, it's nice to see. I get why Alex Garland would take it there. But yeah, fantastic nomination for her there at the Independent Spirit Awards. She won Best First Feature, which is fantastic. And then the film also was nominated for, Bel Powley was nominated for Best Female Lead. Lost to Brie Larson in Room. I definitely can see that too. That's kind of a tough competition right there. Also in the running, Cate Blanchett for Carol, along with Rooney Mara, who probably they canceled each other out, and Katana Kiki Rodriguez for Tangerine. Quite an interesting lineup on that one. That's a tough. that's a really strong, really strong, run right there. And then Marielle Heller was also nominated for Best First Screenplay. Lost to Emma Donoghue for Room. Also up, Me and Earl and the Dying Girl, Mediterranea, and The Mend. I haven't heard of Mediterranea or The Mend, but I mean, that's a great run there at the Independent Spirit Awards. And then at Sundance, of course, where the film opened, Brandon Trost, we already mentioned him as the cinematographer. He won the Cinematography Award for a dramatic film, which is, you can definitely see it when you see this because it just looks so strong. Marielle Heller was nominated for directing a dramatic film, but that lost to Me and Earl and the Dying Girl. So
I loved Me and Earl. Oh, yeah,
that's another really strong film. So, yeah, I get it. I get it in those cases. And you look at the other awards, it's kind of a spattering across a variety of different awards and film festivals and things like that, like the Alliance of Women Film Journalists, things like that. So you can see this was a film that was respected and loved. And, I think people were challenged by it, but saw the value of the story, especially the way it was told.
I do too. I'm I love it, and I Bel Powley. It bums me out a little bit that that race was so competitive because I think she's so great. And in any other year, let's say any other year,
it's a tricky film for a lot of audiences, I think. Just because she's playing a 15-year-old and watching a 15-year-old go through this, I think a lot of people get put off. But I thought she was fantastic. What do you know her from? A lot of things, because this is the only thing I think I've ever seen her in.
I know her King of Staten Island and The Morning Show quite recently. She was a heavy character in season 1, and it was a very similar. I don't want to say similar character, but she was very much in a position of sort of weird political power in this movie. She was in this show. She's an intern at this television station on the morning show, but she comes from a family of extraordinary wealth and power, and she falls in love with the weatherman. And so it's this weird balance. They're trying to keep a secret of their relationship because, is she using him? Will they think he's using her? She's definitely younger, very much an age difference, just like this. And here she is again, but yet she's in this position of power over him in some non-trivial ways. So I just really like her, and I haven't seen a lot of her other stuff, but because, those two, I think, were King of Staten Island and The Morning Show, I really liked quite a bit. And so, I like her.
IMDb has her top 4, or the 4 films she's known by, as, of course, this one, The Diary of a Teenage Girl, King of Staten Island, as you said, A Royal Night Out, which she did the same year as this, where she plays Princess Margaret, and this is 1945 on VE Day. As peace extends across Europe, Princess Elizabeth and Margaret are allowed to join the celebrations. It is a night full of excitement, danger, and the first flutters of romance. Sarah Gadon and Bel Powley play the two princesses. I am completely not familiar with that film. I hadn't even heard of it.
She's in, looks like production of Turn Me On. You know, look at the thematic connections of the things that she's doing. Under the control of a pill that eradicates human emotion, a young couple skip doses and discover new feelings, but realize that comes with emotional baggage to deal with. You know, pills and new feelings, it's practically Diary of a Teenage Girl.
Well, another film she did in 2016, Carrie Pilby, a person of high intelligence struggles to make sense of the world as it relates to morality, relationships, sex, and leaving her apartment.
Yeah.
Very much a thing that she's got heavy in her resume.
Yeah. Well, she's great. Big fan. Big fan.
She's great. She's great.
How'd it do at the box office, Andy?
Well, Heller made her debut film for $2 million, which is about $2.16 million in today's dollars. The movie premiered in Sundance January 2015 before having its release domestically August 7th, 2015, opposite Fantastic Four, Joel Edgerton's The Gift, which we just talked about, Ricky and the Flash, Assassination, and Dark Places. The film earned almost $1.5 million domestically and just over $800,000 internationally for a total gross of $2.46 million in today's dollars. That means the film scraped by with a profit, landing with an adjusted profit per finished minute of $2,900.
Wow. Is that the smallest APPFM that we have?
It's definitely tiny.
Before it turns negative? Like, that's right on the wire.
Yeah, it is.
Fascinating.
I mean, I could look if you really want to know.
Well, I don't want to put you out.
No,
Let's not. I mean, you don't need to. For me, you don't need to do that.
It's not for you, Pete. It's for our listeners.
But seriously, are you doing it? Like right now, are you doing it? Oh, okay.
You asked. I answered.
You deliver.
Hold on. Let me find it.
Makes me want to watch this, Carrie Pilby.
Yeah, I like the art of it.
Yeah, the posters. Very cool.
Okay, the lowest APPFM that we've had. No, it is not the lowest that we've had. It's in the top 5 lowest. The most, the film that is the closest to, and again, this is with the numbers that I have. Who knows if all the studio information as far as, prints and advertising made it into the numbers that are reported online. This is all I have. The film that is just above the line with $573 adjusted profit per finished minute is Shivers.
Oh,
from a David Cronenberg series. Just above that is The Spanish Prisoner with $2,300 per finished minute. Then Tomboy, $2,800 per finished minute. And then this with $2,900 per finished minute. Wow. And then The Future goes from there. And just below, just losing out is The Innocents, which is lost $413 per finished minute.
$413. Wow.
Yeah. So
crazy.
There it is.
Thank you for looking that up. That is an interesting number. Love that Aptham. One of my favorite things you do.
All right, everybody. We will be right back for our ratings. But first, here's the trailer for next week's movie, Booksmart.
Are we going to go to school or? No.
What's 2 + 2?
Isn't it crazy that it's the last day of school? Are you kidding me, Samantha? Go talk to her.
She's got a really cute smile.
Sorry. Here you go. Good. Here, sharp elbows. Not as sharp as your chin. What? Ow!
It's the last day. We got you through high school.
I need to go over the end of the year budget numbers.
Can't we just graduate, head off to college? That should do it, right?
We will persist.
I can't hear you. I can't soundproof glass.
Nobody knows that we are fun. We didn't party because we wanted to focus on school and get into good colleges.
And it worked.
But the irresponsible people who partied also got into those colleges. We have to go to a party tonight.
What?
No.
Not acceptable.
This is not okay.
Who allowed you to be this beautiful?
Who allowed you to be this beautiful?
Who allowed you to take my breath away?
Picture this, I'm a bag of, put me to your lips.
It's a murder mystery party.
We're looking for Nick's party.
Okay. Adorable farmer new to the city.
No, we don't need characters because we're not staying.
Barren orthodontist.
Why am I barren?
Tonight is your night.
Yes. Woo!
Ladies, we are headed to the biggest, coolest grad night party in town. Can I get a what?
Jesus Christ.
What more can I say?
Well, that seems excessive. Shotgun. Just kidding. I don't have one.
People, mark thy calendars to attend the drama department's summer program.
It's actually funny. It's what we did in my summer program last year in Barcelona, when I lived in Barcelona.
Why would you do theater when you could do debate?
Because some of us enjoy working with others.
And some of us know how to win.
Nobody's winning in that outfit.
Where do you stand on Letterboxd for this one, Andy? How's Letterboxd treating you this morning?
Boy, I tell you, this is a tricky one because, I mean, it's a challenging film, but I was just so impressed with everything that Heller did here. Completely found the story. Oh, we didn't even talk about Christopher Maloney and how great he is as the dad. Of course, we love talking about him when we can because of the shared alma mater. He's always fun to watch. And so seeing all these people doing really fantastic work in this film, I really connected with it. It's a challenging film, but I loved the way Heller put it together. I feel like I'm going to say 4.5 and a heart.
This puts me in a tough position.
I know, Mr. No Half Hearts.
No half stars, right. I am,
No half stars,
I came in, I think I would, if I was a half star guy, it'd be 4.5. I'm not a half star guy, which means, is it 5 stars? It feels, I admit it, it feels maybe a little bit off to give it 5 stars, just given to fall in quite such love with a movie that is about such subject matter. And so I do end up with a 4-star, but a big glowing heart. I do really enjoy this movie. I like it more after having talked about it. It's just a hard story.
Yeah.
So that -1 star is the, life is hard star.
The life is hard star.
Yeah.
So what did you think about The Diary of a Teenage Girl? We would love to know. Hop into the Show Talk channel over in our Discord community. We're going to be talking about this movie this week.
When the movie ends,
our conversation begins.
Letterboxd giveth, Andy?
As Letterboxd always doeth.
Oh, Andy. Yeah. So what is your star rating? How many stars?
I went with a 3.5. 3.5.
Okay, I'm going to let you go first, and we'll go up to my 4-star review from there.
That sounds good. Mine is from Matt Lynch. When you hear the title, The Diary of, it very specifically goes to one thing for so many people, and Matt Lynch nails it. Wow, the Wimpy Kid series took a bit of a turn, huh?
Sure did. I have one from Laura that's a 4-star, and Laura says, God, it's so refreshing to see a film focused on female sexuality that's fully from a female point of view. Thank you, Marielle Heller. Just a little extra note. The scenes where Minnie was sleeping with one of the boys from her school, and you could tell he was turned off by the fact that Minnie knew what she enjoyed and was focused on her own pleasure, chef's kiss. I have to say, as someone who has previously lost his virginity, to all of the young men who are going to lose their virginity at some point in their lives, aspire to do it with someone who knows what she wants and can help you figure that out. Because that would make it. I don't want to go into our stories, yours and mine, Andy, about losing our virginity, but I can tell you it was clumsy and stupid. So we should have been so lucky, is all I'm saying. We all should be so lucky to find Minnie.
Here.
Thanks, Letterboxd. Andy, it's hard to believe we've been having weekly conversations about movies since 2011.
Oh, you're telling me. Producing this show week after week is so much fun, but it does require a ton of work behind the scenes. If you'd like to help support our efforts, one easy way is by using our Originals page when shopping for books and movies that we've covered.
Your purchases made through our links give us a small commission at no extra cost to you and allow us to keep having these great discussions.
The originals page at thenextreel.com/originals has links to purchase the source material behind our adapted film discussions. Your purchases there help support the show at no extra cost.
For the entirety of Season 11, we featured films directed by women.
The only exceptions were some of our member bonus episodes.
We talked about The Lure for our Horror Debuts series, which is a very loose adaptation of The Little Mermaid by Hans Christian Andersen.
Definitely miles from the Disney versions.
For our 10-year anniversary series, we covered We Need to Talk About Kevin, taken from the Lionel Shriver novel.
Man, that was brilliant.
And horrifying.
Yeah. The Journalist series included Merrily We Go to Hell and The Weight of Water, adapted from Anita Shreve's bestseller.
We filled some gaps in previous series with member bonus episodes on adaptations like Malcolm X, Mr. Blandings Builds His Dream House, Cactus Flower, Wild at Heart, Life Force, and The Blues Brothers.
Our John Hurd series looked at a trio of adaptations: Chilly Scenes of Winter from the novel by Anne Beatty, Awakenings based on Oliver Sacks' nonfiction book, and Rambling Rose adapted from the Calder Willingham novel.
2 films in our coming-of-age debut series were adapted from books: The Virgin Suicides from Jeffrey Eugenides, and The Diary of a Teenage Girl, Phoebe Gloeckner's graphic novel.
We had Queen of Kotway for our sports series based on Tim Crothers' nonfiction book.
And Clueless kicked off our 90s comedy series, loosely adapted from Jane Austen's Emma.
It totally took place in the 90s, though. Find all of these books and more adaptations on our originals page at thenextreel.com/originals.
Start your next read from the movies we've covered. Visit thenextreel.com/originals today.